Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is the GIS for Success workshop series, and today we are doing geocoding and doing some geocoding and creating an animated map. Into the chat, I have popped in a link to today's document. It looks like, oh, let me grab the correct one and start sharing my screen. As we get into the workshop, I am going to turn off my camera, but let's go ahead and get started. So let me share my screen. Okay, so into the chat, I have dropped this document. This is a description of what we're going to be going over today, as well as kind of a reminder of all of our codes or all of our steps, as well as links to our data folder with everything we will be using in it. I will say today what we're going to be doing is we are going to be creating an animated map of the historical NCAA college football championships through history. I just thought that would be kind of fun, something a little different that we could do today. And let me also put the chat to the side, that way I can always see it. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So first things first, what we need to do in order to do some geocoding is we need to actually add a plugin to our QGIS interface. Let me pull this down a little bit. That way I can see my top bar right here, but I will make my screen bigger. So what you're going to do as you can see, I've already loaded the MMQGIS tool, but to do that, what you're going to do is you're going to go to plugins, manage and install plugins. It's going to connect, and then here you can just search MMQGIS. It will pop up right here. This gives us a description of what it's doing. Basically, it is informing us that how we can create a vector layer, how we can do some geocoding through this. I found that this plugin worked a lot smoother than some of the other ways you could do some geocoding. But essentially what it will do is it'll help us input a CSV file into a shapefile, as well as some other neat features. So go ahead and check it and install the plugin. It may take you a moment to do so, but don't worry, it usually goes pretty fast. Okay, now that we have our plugin installed, we're going to start geocoding some addresses. And let me open up my data folder. I forgot to do that before I started the workshop, so my apologies. And what you guys should have in the link to the data folder is you should see something like this. I've created multiple folders in here. Some of them are empty because as we are going through this workshop, we're going to be generating files. And I found that one of the easiest ways to manage all those is to have some empty folders that we send our generated files to. And I do have a provided generated files because if during one of our processes that it seems to be taking your computer a while to do it, you can go ahead and cancel and use the one that I provide just to save time and to kind of keep pace with me today. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to our MMQGIS. And we're going to go to Geocode, and we are selecting the top one, the Geocode CSV with web service. It should open up a excuse me, should open up this window, and we're going to select our CSV file. So what I went is I created a list of football addresses, and actually let me show you what that list looks like. So this is a list of schools that have historically won the NCAA football championship. And then I went in and I found the best address I could, either for the stadium or for the school, if I couldn't find an exact address for the stadium. You will see there is some kind of missing pieces of information and some odd pieces of information, such as a zip code. For example, Princeton, New Jersey, is only 4 digits instead of 5. So we're going to see how that plays out when we do our geocoding. Let me go ahead and minimize that. and minimize that. Okay, so we identified that we want our football address CSV file, and then we want to set address to full address, cities to city, state to state. It will do its best to try and pick up what it is from the CSV, but sometimes if you label things different, you may have to tell it which column to choose. And simply using the drop down menu would allow us to change that if we needed to. We are going to change the web service to OpenStreetMaps. And then down here, we are going to change the name. Excuse me. We are going to set our output file name. We're going to use the 3 dots, and we are going to send it to our football geocode folder. And we are going to name this one football addresses. Okay. And then go ahead and click save, and now click apply. Oh, apologies. Nope. Close. I'm trying to stop it because I got excited into geocoding this that I forgot we want to reset our output file. So just give it one moment for it to stop before we geocode everything. I get excited when I'm talking to you guys. So I'm actually going to delete this layer real quick so I can do this again with you. So we're going to geocode our files, setting everything. I'm saying where I want it to go. We are going to change our not found file. We're going to, again, put it into the same folder as our football addresses, but this time we are going to call it not found football. So this is a file essentially of addresses that we potentially have not been able to, or that the program was not able to geocode to plot where they go onto the map. Okay, now we're going to apply. And as you can see, we can see our progress bar. And of course, now because I paused it and freaked out, it's taking a moment. While this thinks, I want you to notice that we have 43 schools that we are trying to map. There we go. Okay, now it finished. So when I open up our attribute table, you will notice that we actually only mapped 35. We were trying to map 43 schools. So we did generate a file of information that was not found. So if you go into our football geocode file where you hopefully sent your files, you will see we have a shape file that we generated for the schools we could geocode. And then we created a CSV file for the schools that we were not able to geocode. So if we open that up, we'll see that the schools we couldn't were Brigham Young, Clemson, Lafayette, LSU, Minnesota, and so on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit that. Just this way we know what schools we were not able to geocode for one reason or another. Don't save. I don't want to save those changes that I have accidentally made. So what we need to do is we need to geocode these addresses. And one way to do that is to use the program and to find the latitude and longitude of these schools. So luckily, because there were so few schools, I went ahead and I made a file called not found football lat long. Okay, so what this one looks like is essentially the exact same as the other one, except for I added 2 columns called latitude, longitude. So finding the latitude, longitude for these 8 schools was a lot simpler than trying to find it for the full 43. So I actually saved myself quite a bit of time by geocoding those other schools. There we go. Sorry, I'm hitting exit a lot. And so how we're going to do that is we are going to come up here and we're going to go to layer, add layer, and then we're going to go to add delimited text layer, excuse me, as I try and say that slowly. And in our pop-up window, we're going to go to our not found football that we put into the football geocode folder. Go ahead and add that in. Make sure it's set to the CVS, so our common separated values. And then down here, we need to identify some geometry. So if point coordinates is not selected, please select that. And now we have to identify where our longitude fields are and if there were any other aspects. So I want you to think about the Earth and a graph. Okay, so if you place the Earth on a graph, our X is moving, left to right, our Y is moving up and down. And so our X would be our longitude, so east west, and our Y is our latitude north south. So go ahead and set X to, oh, apologies, my apologies. Do not set it to our not found football. I want you to use the not found football that long CVS that I created. I apologize. I get going, I get excited, and I told you the wrong one. So please make sure it is the not found football lat long that you are set to. Make X our longitude, make Y our latitude, so lat. And if your geometry CRS right here is not set to something, go ahead and click the, you can either click the like globe with the little hat and you can search WGS 84, or sometimes you'll be able to use the drop down arrow and select it from here as well. So once that is all set, we can go ahead and click add. So I'll go ahead and close this. Now you can see the dots in yellow are our new points, the schools that we were missing. So if I turn it off, you'll see them missing from our first geocode. Now they're in here after. So we have all of the schools mapped. However, they are not on the same layer, which can cause some problems as we are trying to kind of work through any data analysis that we may want to do, or in this case, when we go to animate them. So we're going to combine these vector layers. So to do that, we come up to our vector and we go to our data management tools, and we are going to join or merge vector layers. In our input layers, we're going to select our 3 dots and check both of them. Select OK. You do not need to change the CRS, but we are going to change the name of where this where we save our file and where it goes. So go ahead and click on the 3 dots and click Save to File. Go ahead and select where it's, make sure you're in the football geocode folder that we've been putting our generated files into. And we are going to name this one. Sorry, one second. There we go. I wanted to make sure I told you the correct names. We're naming this one National Champions. Okay. Save, it's in the correct folder, and we click Run and close. Now you should see all of the dots are the same color. So if I uncheck it, you'll see they're in the same spot, they're in the same color. If we come into our attribute table, I wanted to point out this is the location of all of the schools, but what it is missing is when these schools won, because a lot of these schools have won more than one time. We want to know what years they have, what years they won as we go through it. So what we're going to do is we are going to add in that additional information. Now, the reason we're doing this is, let me go ahead and open this up. So if I open up this file, this is a spreadsheet of the winning school in the year that they won. As you can see, a lot of these schools repeat themselves. Now, if we had if we listed the year that the school won in this file, where we had all our addresses, we would be repeating the same information again and again. And that's just not useful. That doesn't help us. That is very redundant and just a poor way of handling our data. So if we have one file that has our addresses, and then we have another file that has the name of the school and the year it won, we can add this information in without duplicating our points all over the map. So that's what we're going to do now. Okay. Before I do that, what I am going to do is I am going to add in a state shapefile, just that way we kind of have some context to all of our dots. So go ahead and add in the vector file that I've given you guys, and it's the states, and make sure you're adding the shapefile. And go ahead and move national champions up above our state shapefile. And you can go ahead and kind of zoom in and out as needed. So you can kind of see the best of the states, or of the schools and whatnot. Okay, so what we're going to do is now we're going to join the years that the schools won to all of our addresses. So essentially we are adding non-spatial data to a spatial data table. Okay, so to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our layers and layers, add the layer, and again we are adding a delimited text layer. Go ahead and choose from our menu, our geocode. We want national champion years. Okay, and you can double check that is the right table that we wanted. This time we are selecting no geometry attributes. Okay, so we are inputting this. First, we are inputting this table into our program. So we go ahead and add that. And as you can see right here, it tells us like it's not mapped. It tells us it's a table with our symbology. So we haven't added anything, or we haven't tried to map anything just yet. So what we can do is, like, I can look at the attribute table within here. If I come up to our properties, for example, and I go to like fields, it'll tell us what that information is and so on. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add in the information from this table into our plotted table, our points. There we go. Excuse me, I'm going to take a quick sip of water. So to do this, we are going to use a tool from the QGIS toolbox. So we go ahead and go up to processing in toolbox. And we are going to search join attributes by field value. As you can see, I've recently used it, but for you guys, it's probably down here under vector general. So we are joining attributes by the field value. Go ahead and double click it. It should open up a window. Now, what we want is to identify our layer and inputs. So for the first layer input, go ahead and choose the national champions shape file we created. Okay. So I want, the one that has the 3 dots next to it. And then for the table field, you're going to select school. Okay, our input layer 2 is the national championship year. And you're going to make the table field here winning school. So what I am telling the program is in our national championship layer, school matches the column called winning school in our national championship years table. I hope that makes sense. Please let me know if it doesn't in the chat. Down here, we need to tell it how to join. So is there only one school? Is the school only mentioned once in both files? Is it mentioned multiple times? In this case, it is mentioned multiple times in our years file. So we are going to be choosing create separate features for each matching feature, one to many. Okay, so it's saying that create additional fields anytime it needs to be repeated. Okay, so it's going to create more fields essentially in this table when it's repeated when it's repeated here. All right. Excuse me. And we are going to our joined layer. You're going to use the 3 dots again and save to file. Again, putting it in that football geocode file. And this time we are going to call it national. Oh, helps when you spell correctly. National champion years. Year. And save. So I know I am using similar names in these layers. It helps when you make them kind of unique, but I'm trying to be descriptive right now for you guys to let you know exactly what's in the layer, but you can make these names whatever you need to. It's just I suggest not leaving them as like temp because that doesn't tell you what that layer actually is. So go ahead and click run. Now, if this layer by chance took a little bit, that layer is in our auto-generated or was provided generated files that I gave you guys when you downloaded the data set. Okay, so I can go ahead and close that. And as you can see, we have national champion years. I'm going to go ahead and move that up top because this is the one that we just created. And if I open up my attribute table and scroll all the way to the side, you will see that now years are associated with the schools and it does repeat. All right. Okay. So now we have all of our years associated with everything. And now we can move on to making our map or our animated map, our fun map. I'm just trying to scroll in and out a little bit, but my button is going a little. I'm sorry, right here, I'm just changing my magnifier a little bit. There we go. I changed it to about 90 so I get a nice clean view of just these states because I know there's nothing in Hawaii and Alaska. All right, so something to remember though is that in order to create this animated map, we have to define a feature. So I am telling you in this lesson, we have to define our time feature. As you kind of play with animation, you will kind of figure out how you may need to change some features. I'm just hoping we can have a little fun with this. So one thing I would like you to do is look at our national champions year, go ahead and open up the properties table and go to our fields and scroll down to year. Okay, and the type name, it says it's an integer. So right now to QGIS, that all of those years are simply a number to QGIS. It doesn't represent time. So this is something that we're going to have to change. That way it recognizes we are distinguishing this as a time feature rather than simply as a number. So what we're going to do is we are going to go back to our attribute table and we're going to click on our field calculator. So it looks, I like to call it an abacus. I think it's an abacus. I think that's what it's representing. And go ahead and open up that. Make sure that create new field is checked because we're going to create a new column in this table. And in our output field name, go ahead and make it year underscore DT. DT is going to stand for date time for us. And change the output field type to date time. Okay, we're using date time instead of simply date because I found that the date time tended to work better for our animation than just the date. I'm sure there's a way to make date work better, but for our purposes, date time was easier to do. And now we're going to use our expression builder to create the expression that we need. So go ahead and expand date time, and you're going to go to date time, and then click on toString. Oh, that one, sorry. ToString is under conversions, my apologies. And you'll see toDate time is also under conversions. Okay, so we're saying we are essentially building an expression that's saying we are converting the year column. Yep. And it takes the form of year. Sorry, there we go. Oh, I need one more Y. Okay. So it's saying we have a string, so our integer column, which is year, we are converting that to a string. Okay. And then we are converting that string to a date time type, and it's going to take the form of the year. All right. There's other ways you can see this. So if I, for example, click on date time over here, our formats, we could define it as month, day, year, with hour, minute. We are simply just doing year for us. This is what's great about QGIS is over here, it kind of helps explain what that function is doing. And we're getting a preview of what that may look like over here. Ensure that your parentheses are closing out. So we should have 2 sets of parentheses and your single quotation marks around the 4 Ys. This helps define elements of that function. Then go ahead and click OK. And scroll all the way over. You should now see a year DT, which tells you the date time. So we now have a defined field here. I'm just double checking something. I think we're okay for right now. I will double check something. I may have made a mistake, but until we do the animation, I'm not going to be positive. So forgive me if this does happen. But that's the joy of live demo searching or live demonstrations you guys may see when I potentially make a mistake. Excuse me. Let me move that to the side. Apologies. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to create the animation. So if we come up to our national champions year, you're going to see it's in edit mode. So if you right click, save layer edits, okay? And turn off toggle editing by just clicking on it. That way we're telling it we're done editing, and go ahead and open our properties for this layer. And you'll also see year, date, time is down here. Go ahead and click on temporal and click the dynamic temporal control. And we're going to change configuration to single field with date time. Our field, we're going to change it to the year, date, time, because that is the field that determines that. It's our duration. And go ahead and leave event duration to 0 and change the drop-down menu over here to years. And then go ahead and click OK. Now what you should see is like a little clock feature has popped up right next to it, letting us know that it's there. So if we go ahead and click on the clock, oh, oops. Yeah. Yeah, if I click on my clock, why aren't you popping up? I should be getting, this is odd. Why am I not getting my control panel for temporal? Sorry, it should have just opened up right when I clicked on it. So I'm trying to find out what's going on and open my temporal panel. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? All right. And turn it off. Okay. And then try turning it back on. See if that should open it up. Because you should be seeing panel up here, and I don't know why it's not happening. So what I'm going to do, if this is the case, is I'm going to save my project, save as, my geocode. I'm just going to save it in here as animated. We're going to save it, and then I'm going to close and open this back up. So my apologies. Sometimes QGIS will do this and you have to kind of reset it for a second. So I saved it. Now I can exit it. I'm going to open QGIS back up. And it will appear in my recent project. So I can open it back up. Why are you doing this to me? Why is my control panel not coming up? Because I should be getting a nice big panel up here. Oh, everyone, I am so sorry. You want to click the clock that's up in the menu bar and not the clock that is appearing next to the file, the layer name. I am so sorry. As you can see, even someone who practices this is still going to make mistakes as they are working through it. And if I had read my directions closer instead of just glancing at it, I would see that it says the clock in the main menu toolbar and not next to the layer bar. I apologize for that kind of roundabout way that we just went. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to click on the third animated temporal navigation. Okay, it should open up something that looks like this. So now we can set the parameters for what's going on. So first thing you may notice is it gives a range in a year. Go ahead and click the refresh button because we want to ensure that it takes our table to the appropriate years and time. And sometimes it won't do that. But in this case, it did set it to our 1869, which is the first year of our championship. And then we're going to change over here for step. We're going to change it from hours to years. And we're going to press play. Okay, I did make a mistake because, oh, there we go. My apologies. Turn off any of these other layers that may be on top of the state shapefile. Just to be safe, turn off all of our point layers that we've generated. And I'm going to restart that and press play. As you can see, you should be seeing gray dots appear, but what it does look like is I did make a mistake when I joined our tables. So I'm going to go ahead and pause that, check my years, my attribute table. Yes, I did do something wrong when I joined this table. So what I'm going to do is, honestly, I'm going to have to restart. So I'm going to remove this layer. I'm just going to completely remove it. And I'm going to scroll back up to make sure I don't accidentally do this again. So we still have our national championship layer and we still have our championship years. Okay. So we are going to properly join these this time. I'm going to make sure I do it correctly with what we're doing. So vector, data management tools, merge, vector layers, choose my inputs, which I want national champion years and national champions. Okay. I'm going to save this to national champion years 2. Since this is my second attempt, I'm just reading this over. Oh, cancel. Sorry, I went one step too far, one step back. I was going to join it in the wrong way. I need to join my non-spatial layers. My apologies. So this is actually done in our toolbox. And join attributes by field value. So I want national champions, school, national champion years, winning school. I want create separate feature for our one-to-many. Sorry, I'm just trying to double check it. And then this will be national champion years 2. Save, run, close, open up our attribute table. There we go. Now we have a total of 189. So when I was talking about changing the one-to-many field, I didn't actually change it. I talked about it, but I didn't click it. And that's why I was getting that problem. So now we have all of the correct years associated with everything, but I still need to go in and edit my year column. So this will be year DT our expression to date time to string. As you can see, sometimes you just have to problem solve as you go through this, because it is very easy to accidentally make a mistake. 2, 3, 4. There we go. Okay. Just double checking myself. That looks good. Scroll over. I made a mistake in that calculation. I forgot to change my output field. So change it to date time because I went back to it. So this is going to be year DT2. This is what happens when I get excited and I don't double check my notes each step of the way. I apologize, everyone. You're seeing me make mistakes, but I hope that encourages you to keep trying when you are creating your own information or your own maps on your own time, because we all make mistakes and it is just too easy to get frustrated. So sometimes you just have to problem solve as you go through it. And scroll. Yep, there we go. Now it's in there. Now I'm seeing dates and it should be for 189 fields, which it is. Yay. Okay, so we've converted that. Now what I'm going to do is turn off my save. Yes, I want to save those changes. Go into my properties and make this our temporal element. And this is single field date time. Our field is a year DT. Change this to years. Check, check, check. Okay. We have our, I'm going to close that just to be sure and then open up our temporal again. Hit my reset to ensure that it's set to the correct year back here. And years. Now when I, let me turn off national champions years. Now you're seeing that dot move. Okay. It's moving with the years at a much better pace. I really apologize that you guys had to kind of watch me go through that a few times. Now what we can do is the animation can be kind of slow, so we can speed it up. So if we click the little gold icon over to the side, so this will change our rate of time. So go ahead and make it like 3. So this will be 3 frames per second. And pause, play. That should speed it up. See, now the dots are moving at a faster pace. You will notice some years there are 2 or 3 dots. That was because there are 2 or 3 schools listed on the NCAA website that I was using. So yay, now we have an animation of the map, but we don't know what year it is, what school it is. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add in a few elements to kind of help us out. So if we come to layers and we come to right? No, view, apologies. It's view, decorations. And we're going to add in a title label. So enable it. And then we are going to make it so that way the date will appear in the corner of our map, telling us what date it or what year it is. So we're going to do insert edit expression. And the expression we are going to use is format date. And then this is at map underscore start underscore time comma, year, close the parentheses. And as you can see down here, that's what it would show up like. I will admit this is something that I had to find on some other tutorials to get the correct expression for this. So keep that in mind, is sometimes you have to explore. So we have our time. Go ahead and we're going to click on font and change the font size to 25 so it's nice and big. Background color, we can change the transparency if I click on it. Oh. You can change the color, my transparency. Where'd it go? Oh, here we go. It's under occupancy. What did it say? I wanted to change it to like 40. It may be set differently on yours. And we're actually going to put that into the bottom right corner for now. Apply. And what you should see right here is like a gray bar with the year 2020 down here in the corner. And so then when I restart our loop, our series, you'll see the year is changing as the dot is moving. So you're seeing it go. Now you want to make sure before you publish any map like this that it is appropriately styled. So changing the symbol, changing the background color of the states, maybe you want to label the states, whatever you want. But something that I like and that I find very fun is if we go to our properties and we go to our symbology, and sorry, this is the properties for our national championship years layer, the layer where the dot is moving. We're going to do categorized and do it based on school, classify. Okay, so each school will now be in a different color. We're going to add in a specialized image. So if we come to Florida State and double click on the dot next to it, where it says simple marker, click on simple marker, use the drop down menu, and you're going to do raster image. Okay. Now, use the 3 line dots to navigate to the helmets folder in our geocode and then select on the appropriate school. I just did a few of the schools to kind of get started, to help you get started. And then let's see, I want to change the width to 6. We're going to make the occupancy like 90. So that way it's a little grayed out if we wanted to. You can change the rotation, how it kind of appears. So now it looks like a little football helmet. So when it flashes over Florida State, it will actually be a helmet on here. And you can do that with the rest of the helmets. Now, just because I want to make sure we are not running out of time, I am going to move this over here. The exporting is pretty simple. So once you're happy with the appearance of the map, you just need to follow these steps. So you're going to click save. You are going to give it a name, and you're going to save it to the animation folder, because this is going to basically generate multiple images in a way. So animation and select folder. Okay, but go ahead and leave the name like this. That's the template. You can leave everything else the same. Click save. It's going to export the animation into multiple PNG files into that animation folder. So let me show you. Desktop. So as you can see, it's lots of PNGs. That's why I say put it in its own separate folder. That way you don't have to scroll through all of them. And then I use this GIF maker. I found it very simple, very easy to use. You just upload your files. And then you can kind of set some of the animations to how you want, and it will then generate something that looks like this. All right, this is after I did some changing. So as you can see, I changed the color of the states. I decided to add another text bar up here that says like winter, and where the day will still change. I added as you can see, sorry, as it moves pretty quickly, I added a label for each dot to indicate what the school was. Additionally, down here, these are a lot of references that I use that talk about either geocoding or like creating that animated map, and about the plugins that we use, or where I got the data.